Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be ranking all 14 Black Sabbath singers from the worst to the best, regardless if they met an album or not, everybody in Black Sabbath's history. And I'm going to include Landy, who was also technically a part of Heaven and Hell, not Black Sabbath, but we'll just say it's Black Sabbath, because it really was. So, all 14 Black Sabbath singers from the worst to the best. This is just my opinion. You can disagree with it. You don't have to agree. Just give me your list in the comments down below. And if you'd rather just rank all 5 singers of Black Sabbath that recorded the albums, you can do that too. But I'm going to ranking all 14 singers from Black Sabbath's history. So, coming in number 14, Ice-T. Because, rapping is technically a type of singing. I don't know why they thought Ice-T was going to be a good idea for a Black Sabbath album, though. He appears on The Illusion of Power, which was a part of Forbidden, and that was not a good idea at all. He did not work well with this. I don't think rap metal in general is great. I honestly think it's horrible. I used to like rap metal, like in Slipknot and stuff, but now listening to it, I don't like it at all. It sounds horrible. I don't like rap metal at all, or rap rock, rap metal. No. Rap is great in hip-hop, because I do like rap. Well, 80s and 90s and some 2000s rap. I don't think modern day rap is that great, but classic rap and hip hop, that stuff's great. But mixing that with Black Sabbath and metal, no, it didn't work out. And I don't think Ice-T even compares to the other singers on this list, at least in my opinion. If you're a diehard Ice-T fan, you might rank him higher, but I sure don't. Now, coming in at number 13, Dave Walker. Now, some of you might not even know who Dave Walker is, but he was in Fleetwood Mac and a few other bands, and there's a reason I'm holding up Never Say Die here. That's because Dave originally did the song Junior's Eyes, which appears on this album. The only difference is, once Ozzy came back into the band, they quickly changed the lyrics, because Ozzy did not want to sing songs that he didn't write. And that's also why Ozzy never attempted to sing Dio material or Tony Martin material when he came back into the band later. That's why he didn't do any of that stuff. He only did his songs that were written by Geezer. I think Ozzy sort of worked on maybe came up with some melodies, but the most of the lyrics for those Ozzy songs were by Geezer. And I think Geezer helped Ozzy write the rewritten lyrics to Junior's Eyes, because they changed it to be about Ozzy's dad who passed away at the time. I don't know what Dave Walker's versions of Junior's Eyes about. I forgot, but it certainly sounds unique. And Dave has this country raspy voice, and I mean it sort of works, but I just couldn't picture a full Black Sabbath album with Dave Walker on it. I don't think that would have worked out too well. I think it'd work better than Ice-T, but I still don't think it'd be that great. So that's why he's at number 13. A raspy, deep southern rock voice just doesn't really blend well with Black Sabbath, in my opinion. So he's gonna sit at number 13. Okay, coming in at number 12, David Donato, who originally, I think, I could have this wrong, but he auditioned during the recording sessions for The Eternal Idol. I could have that wrong, but I'm like 99% sure David Donato was the guy who did the original version of The Shining, which later made it onto The Eternal Idol. I could have that wrong, but he didn't have a bad voice. He had like that 80s, when you think of an 80s rock singer, just the stereotypical 80s rock singer, David Donato's voice fits that criteria. That's not to say it's not unique. He did have like a certain style within his singing, but that's what it reminds me of anyway. Just an 80s rock singer. He would have probably fit on this album, because he doesn't sound bad at all. But I don't know, if anyone knows if he recorded more songs with it, send me a link to him, because I'd love to hear him. But from the one I heard of him doing a very early version of The Shining, it didn't sound bad. I think that the album would have worked out fine if he stayed in the band. I don't prefer him over Ray Gillan or Tony Martin, but I think it would have worked if they stuck with him and really made the songs, work with his vocal style. And you can say the same thing about Ron Keel. I think he also auditioned during The Eternal Idol, and it didn't go anywhere. I think they did record some demos of Ron Keel. He also had an 80s rock sounding voice, and again, it probably would have worked out if they stuck with him. I think. Like I said, don't prefer him over Ray Gillan or Tony Martin, but had they stuck with him, I don't think the album would have been horrible. I think it would have been pretty good. Now, coming in at number 10, I'm going to go with Landy. Now, I'm pulling up Dehumanizer. It has nothing to do with anything. But the reason why I'm pulling up Dehumanizer is because Bjorn Landy was very heavily influenced by Ronnie James Dio. That feller right there. Heavily influenced by him. You can definitely tell that when you hear his vocals. And that's actually who Dio wanted to continue in the Heaven and Hell band if he couldn't make the tour. I think that was in like early 2010 before he passed away. He said if they wanted to do a summer tour with Bjorn Landy, that's what he personally, like Dio personally selected him to be the new frontman for Heaven and Hell, which they ultimately decided not to, carry on that name without Dio. And Bjorn Landy actually did a tribute show to Dio. So, yeah, that's why he's on this list, and he's not a bad singer at all. I may even rank Bjorn Landy a little higher than number 9 sometimes, because number 9 has a great voice. He does sound flat at times. That could very well be because they're demo tracks, but I always thought he had an amazing singing voice. And that is the late Jeff Fenholt, who originally did vocals for the 7th Star album, which I have right here. This is my vinyl copy. I got this off eBay for like $25. But yeah, this was my record. And it was in great condition too. These things usually go for like $50 to $100, but I got it for $25. And really the only downside to it was there are some slight, like down here, there's a little, I don't know if you can see that, there's a little thing right there. But the actual record was in great condition. That's all I really cared about. It didn't really matter the cover was beat up, but yeah. Anyways, Jeff Fenholt originally did the vocals, was going to be the singer during the 7 Star era. Before they got Glenn Hughes, he was going to do it. And he actually sounds a lot like Glenn Hughes. I think Glenn Hughes might be Glenn Hughes is a better singer overall than him. But he certainly sounds like Glenn Hughes at times. And he had a great singing voice. And it would have worked for this album, I think. If Tony Iommi didn't get Glenn Hughes, I think Jeff Fenholt would have been, a great pick. Because he has an amazing singing voice. He had a really high range, but at times he sounds flat. That's really the only downside with his vocals. He could hit like these great high notes, but he would sound flat at times, and sometimes he would get off key. But again, they were demos; they weren't finalized songs. So if they had released an album with him with everything made perfect, it probably would have sounded really good. But he's gonna sit at number 9. And number 8, I'm going to rank at number 8 just because of how unique his voice is in comparison to everyone else. And that's Bill Ward, who did a song off Never Say Die and Technical Ecstasy. On Technical Ecstasy, he did It's Alright. And on this album, he did, what's that song called? Swing of the Chain, I think that's what the song's called. Yeah, Swing of the Chain's the song that Bill Ward did. And I love Bill Ward's singing voice. He doesn't sound like any of the other singers I mentioned previously. Very unique voice. And it was always super cool to hear him sing a song on a Sabbath album. He also did Blow on a Jug, which is a hidden track on Sabotage. I don't have Sabotage with me. Yeah, I didn't pull that album out, but yeah. He also did Blow on a Jug, which is one of the funniest songs I've heard in my life, and I like how they included that as like a little hidden track at the end of Sabotage. You have to turn the volume really high up though to hear it, but that's a funny song. And so yeah, Bill Ward did those 2 songs. I wish they would have let him sing more songs in Sabbath, because it would have been really cool to hear. Because like I said, he has a really unique vocal style. Sounds like nobody else I've named so far. And Bill Ward, number 8. Now coming in at number 7, Ray Gillan, who was the original singer who was going to sing on The Eternal Idol. I think he actually wrote the lyrics to the songs on, some of the lyrics to the songs on Eternal Idol. I could have that wrong, but I think he wrote the lyrics to the songs. Because all Tony Martin did was re-record them. But not Glenn Hughes, sorry. Ray Gillan was the original singer who was going to be featured on the Eternal Idol album, which there's this disc right here. You can get that in the deluxe edition of the album, the Ray Gillan version of it, and it sounds great. He had such an amazing singing voice. One of the greatest losses ever, losing him at such a young age, because the dude had such a phenomenal singing voice. And had they continued with Ray Gillan, man, he would have left a huge impact in the rock and metal world. Because he was in Badlands, but imagine if he was the singer in Black Sabbath, what a legacy he would have had. Which he does have a legacy within, singing Eternal Idol. And I don't know if I prefer him over Tony Martin. I'd say it's close. I think I like Tony Martin slightly more than Ray Gillan, but man, I can only imagine what those other Tony Martin albums would have sounded like with Ray Gillan. That would have been so cool. But yeah, I'm not sure which one I prefer. It really depends. Sometimes I do prefer Tony Martin's vocals over Ray Gillan's. It really just depends, especially on these tracks. Some versions I like by Tony, some versions I like by Ray. It really just depends. But I ultimately think I listen to, though, well, no. I've still listened to the Tony Martin version of this album more than the Ray Gillan one. But Ray Gillan was a great singer. Now coming in at number 6, Glenn Hughes, who only did this one album with Sabbath because at the time, well, this was technically going to be a Tony Iommi solo album. I'm sure you've heard that story by now. But yeah, this was originally going to be a Tony Iommi solo album. The record label wanted it to be called Black Sabbath, so you got that really weird title of Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi, which is really one of the strangest titles I've ever heard. Ever. But yeah, there's the back. Glenn Hughes. What can you say? If you've never heard what Glenn Hughes sounds like, pause the video and go listen to his stuff in Deep Purple or in Seventh Star. Because that dude, I don't even have to explain his vocals. If you've heard Glenn Hughes, you immediately know what he sounds like. No one sings like him. He has an highest range. One of the highest ranges in singing, I'd say. I'm not sure if that's actually... I never checked my facts on that, but I'd say he has a high vocal range. And he's better than ever now. He still can sing really well for his age. Which the reason why he was kicked off of Sabbath during the Seventh Star Tour is because the dude was a mess with drugs, and his voice, he shot his voice basically and could not perform live. So they kicked him off and got Ray Gillan, and then that led into them getting eventually Tony Martin. But yeah, Glenn Hughes, I wish he would have done just maybe, had he not had a drug problem, I would have loved to have seen more Sabbath albums with Glenn Hughes, because that would have been fantastic. At number 5, we were just speaking about this guy not too long ago, Tony Martin. Coming in at number 5, I've always loved Tony Martin's vocals. If you want to be objective about it, Tony Martin technically should be number 1 in this list, just because he has the highest, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he has the highest vocal range out of any Black Sabbath singer. I think that's true. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's true. So if you're going to be objective about it, he should be number 1. But I slightly prefer other people's singing styles over Tony Martin's, as much as I love his vocals. He's got an incredible voice, one of the most underrated singers in the world, but I prefer other singers' vocal styles slightly more than him. Ask me on another day, I might say he's above them, but for now, I'm going to rank him at number 5. Now, number 4, Rob Halford. Now, Rob Halford was not on Dehumanizer, obviously, that was Dio, but he did join the band for the Dehumanizer tour whenever they were going to open for Ozzy, because Dio didn't want to do it. So they got Rob Halford in for 2 shows, and I always loved how Rob Halford would sing Black Sabbath songs, because I already love his vocal style, and some people complain that he just, when he, because he eventually did fill in for Ozzy when Ozzy was back in the band. I think Ozzy was sick or something, and then they got Rob Halford back in the band to fill in for Ozzy. And people were complaining because he didn't sound like Rob Halford, and he was trying to imitate Ozzy, which I think that was more about a respect thing, trying to honor Ozzy. But had they let Rob Halford sing Sabbath songs in his own vocal style, like how he does in Judas Priest, that would have been one of the most killer metal albums ever made. Could you imagine Rob Halford shrieking vocals with Tony Iommi's guitar, and if they had Geezer Butler on bass, or Bill Ward on drums, or Cozy Powell on drums since he was still alive at that point? Could you imagine what a killer album that would have been? It would have been incredible. That's why Rob Halford's at number 4. Just imagine a Black Sabbath album with Rob Halford, and letting him just sing everyone else's songs in Sabbath's history in his own original style. That would have been amazing. Especially because nowadays that dude can still shriek. It's really impressive. So that's why Rob Halford's at number 4. Okay, so coming in at number 3, Ian Gillan. I love Ian Gillan's vocals. I don't know. Ask me another day, I might rank Rob Halford slightly above Ian Gillan, but I still really love Ian Gillan's vocals. Even today they sound great. Obviously he can't shriek anymore like he used to could, but yeah, Ian Gillan, one of my favorite vocalists of all time. He has a bluesy voice. He could shriek back then in his prime, and it just, I don't even know how to describe his shrieks, but they were just like larger than life. And you listen to songs like on Born Again, like Disturbing the Priest. The first time I heard that song, I was genuinely terrified. Like, some people say that Black Sabbath, the title track, is the evilest sounding Black Sabbath song. No. I think Disturbing the Priest is evil as Sabbath ever got in terms of just a singular song. Because, man, first time I ever heard that song, I was like genuinely terrified. Because you start out with Trash, and that's just like a, an easygoing, upbeat rock song. But then you get to Disturbing the Priest, where that sinister guitar riff kicks in, and you hear Ian Gillan just doing these screams and shrieks. I was horrified when I first heard that song back in like 2021, when I first heard this album. But yeah, I love I love Ian Gillan, one of my favorite vocalists of all time. Okay, now coming in at number 2, Ozzy. I had to rank Ozzy high just because his voice is so iconic with Black Sabbath. He's not the most technical singer out there, but he certainly has a unique vocal style. Nobody sounds like Ozzy. You can try to sound like him, but there's only one Ozzy. Sounds, everyone knows what Ozzy sounds like. There's no point of even trying to explain it. The early 70s Ozzy albums, the later 70s Ozzy albums, I'd honestly say that Ozzy sounded the best in Black Sabbath history. In between Sabbath Bloody Sabbath and Sabotage, that was Ozzy in his prime. Like, listen, people say that Ozzy's a bad singer nowadays, but you try singing Megalomania, you try singing the end part of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Good luck with that. Because I doubt you can sound anything like how Ozzy did whenever he recorded those songs. But Ozzy's got to be at number 2. I don't even have to explain it further, because, he's Ozzy. Ozzy's Ozzy. Everyone loves him. Well, I think almost everyone loves him. Who doesn't love Ozzy? That's the real question. But yeah, Ozzy's at number 2. It's kind of self-explanatory. But if you've been watching this channel for a long time, you already know who number 1 is. Ronnie James Dio. My favorite album of all time is The Mob Rules. This one is the 2010 Deluxe Edition that has the complete live at Hammersmith's show. They did make a 2021 version, another deluxe version of this that had a remix track of The Mob Rules, and it had a completely different live show. I want to buy that at some point, but I do have this one from 2010 that has the Hammersmith show on it, and I always loved that Hammersmith show. And there's a live picture right there. But Ronnie James Dio, what else can I say? That guy right there, my favorite vocalist of all time. I love Ronnie James Dio so much. And I wish he was still alive today, because man, imagine the songs we'd be getting right now. But yeah, Ronnie James Dio, that guy right there with the microphone at the camera will focus on it. Ronnie James Dio's gotta be number 1 for me. Some people might rank Ozzy above Dio, but me personally, I love Dio more than Ozzy. I love them both, but Dio's my all-time favorite. So he's gonna sit at number 1, Ozzy's gonna sit at number 2. So that's my ranking of every single Black Sabbath singer, from the worst to the best. If you disagree, that's fine. Let me know your list in the comments down below. And until next time, see you later.